Welcome to the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast, brought to you by the Arkansas Cattlemen's Association. Here, we dive into the heart of Arkansas's cattle industry, where legislation, education, advocacy, and development come together to support the hardworking cattle producers of the natural state. Whether you're in the pasture or on the road, this is your connection to the people, policies, and programs shaping the future of our industry. Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have y'all. It's crazy to me to think that we're already 3 weeks into the podcast.
I know it. It's flew by.
It really has. It's felt slow every time we've been sitting at the computer trying to edit this podcast and get it published. So we appreciate your patience as we have been a little sporadic on the posting times. But these will be going up on Fridays. I'm not going to guarantee a time yet.
No, absolutely not.
But eventually we'll be able to say, oh, these will be up at this time. But for now, they'll go up on Fridays. We're really grateful for y'all tuning in as we've really just kind of hit the ground running in the podcasting world. So thanks so much. We are glad to have you here in the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast studio. Now, we're excited to be here for episode 3. We've got a pretty interesting episode, some exciting things to talk about, and so we can just hop right in.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start off with a rundown of what happened this week at the Capitol.
Yeah, so this week was, it's that hurry up and wait time of year at the Capitol, where we are definitely still having a lot of movement, a lot of individual things, but nothing seems like a lot is getting done. And so I think the Agriculture Committee on both, we only met one time as an Agriculture Committee on either chamber. And so all the other committees were fairly busy this week. And so we were able to stay busy and plugged into those. But we had quite a bit of a hurry up and wait week at the Capitol, and then both chambers went into recess on Thursday afternoon. They'll come back Monday morning and kind of hit the ground running, and I think we'll see this might be possibly the last week of Let's Hurry Up and Wait.
Sweet. So we've discussed Senate Bill 61 and 68. Can you provide an update for both of those?
Yeah, so just to recap, if you have been with us on the episodes past, if not, if you're new, tuning in for the first time, both of those bills deal with veterinary medicine in different forms and fashion. And so they stood previously. They were through the Senate Ag Committee. They passed on the Senate floor. So this week they went to the House floor, were read 3 times, and recommended to go referred to that House Agriculture Committee. That committee met earlier this week, and those bills were introduced and discussed. They passed out of committee with a do pass recommendation. Very little debate and discussion there, and I think part of the reason for that is because while these bills were being drafted, a lot of the stakeholders came to the table and shared their opinions at that time. And so I was hoping personally to have an update for you that's like, hey, these are done. This was not the case, and so the House adjourned on Thursday before they were able to hear Senate bills. So they'll hopefully address those first thing Monday morning, if not early next week. So next week's podcast, we should have a good update for you. If they pass out of committee with a due pass, usually there may be a little bit more debate, but we're hoping to see some positive movement on those fronts, on those bills next week. To recap those again, they have one is dealing with telemedicine, so making it authorizing for veterinarians to practice veterinary medicine via telehealth. So whether that's video, phone, a photo, whatever it might be on the telehealth side. And then the other one allows for veterinary technician specialists, and veterinary technologists to leave the premises where the vet is practicing and to go to a farm, to go to a separate location and be able to address some issues there under indirect supervision. So both of those are waiting, passed out of committee, sitting and waiting on the House. So hopefully we'll be going to the House hopefully next week.
For sure. So, for those who might not know, can you walk us through the legislative process?
Yeah, so those bills are prime examples of it, and so each bill has to have a sponsor. You can have multiple sponsors, but you have to have an originating chamber. So somebody has to take ownership of that bill in the very beginning. So these vet bills were owned and sponsored by Senator Ricky Hill on the Senate side, and then Representative Vaught and Representative Painter on the House side. You have to have a sponsor from each chamber, so that way they're able to present the bill on the floor and discuss it in committees. And so the bills get drafted. The legislator runs them on the floor. On the Senate side, both sides remain the same. For these, they get read on the Senate floor 3 times and then referred to a committee. So these bills went to the Agriculture Committee because they pertain to agriculture. The sponsor presents that bill in committee, and that's where a lot of the big work, the nitty-gritty work, gets done of what is the purpose of this bill. The purpose of all bills should be to solve a problem. That is the purpose of legislation, is to provide solutions to issues that are affecting their constituents. And so the purpose of these bills obviously was to be able to provide a little bit more accessibility to veterinarians or to veterinarian staff. And so Senator Hill presented those bills in committee, answered questions, had discussion, debate, and then the committee has the choice to either pass the bill out of committee or to not pass the bill out of committee. If it doesn't pass out of committee, it has failed. There you go. These passed out of committee, goes back to the Senate floor, gets read and voted on, and then once it's voted on there, it goes across the building to the House side, and it goes through the exact same process. So it gets read 3 times, gets referred to a committee meet, debate, discuss, and then do pass or do not pass, goes back to the House floor for a vote. So no matter which chamber it starts in, the process remains the same, and the process mirrors each other. So there's some examples where that might not be the case, where it may have a few more changes or they may defer, but that's really your general process of how do bills become law. I always feel like I should just do you're going to be too young to understand this, but it's okay. Do the Schoolhouse Rock of oh, hey, is the little bill is this is how bills become law, and so this is how it was a whole thing. It's a millennial, it's fine, but I always feel like that whenever I explain the legislative process. I'm yeah, they do a much better job. I feel like I'll just send you that video.
I do know I am a bill from
I am a bill. Yeah, that's what I feel like every time I do it. So but yeah, so that's your legislative process.
I'm just a bill.
Yeah,
okay, I got that stuck in my head now. Thanks for that.
Yeah. You're welcome. I do what I can,
So that's our update on the state legislation. Lastly, we're going to switch to a federal focus, and we've had some members ask about the Farm Bill. Do we have any update on the timing for that?
Yeah. Welcome to Real Time with Michelle and Dora Lee, where we get distracted by Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
So an update on the Farm Bill. I wish I could say, oh yeah, here we go, it's going to be X date. We don't have that. Nobody has that. So the Senate right now is really focused on prioritizing Senate confirmations. And so prioritizing, obviously, the President Trump's cabinet, and then looking out through all the rest of them. And so right now I think we have, as of this recording, the Senate has confirmed 7 nominations, 7 cabinet nominations, but there's still quite a few cabinet positions to be confirmed, and also some 1,500 positions that have to be Senate confirmed as well that are not directly in the cabinet. And so they are really focused on that to make sure that the administration can continue the process of functioning and running the government. And so for now, a lot of especially the larger legislation, like a farm bill, is kind of taking a back burner. But we are still working with Senator Bozeman's office and his staff fairly frequently and discussing with them the issues that cattle producers are facing that could be solved in the farm bill. If you don't know, our current farm bill extension expires on March 14th of 2025, along with the government funding and all of that was was passed in December with the continuing resolution before the former Congress adjourned. And so they do have a deadline. They do have to figure out a good bit of things before March 14th, but I don't know that we'll have an entire farm bill by then. Good news is that Chairman Bozeman and Chairman Thompson on the House side are both in agreement of how important farmers are in the Farm Bill and agriculture is in the Farm Bill. So they both have draft legislation already. Just really going to have to be finding the time for the committees to meet and then discuss and debate the rest of the nuances of that bill. So we're hoping here in a month or two we'll see some forward progress on the Farm Bill and some issues that are going to be able to help cattle producers for sure.
Yeah, sure. So that is our Hats on the Hill update for this week. And before we hop into membership, we hosted our first quarter board meeting this past Saturday. So, want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we can, I always like to give an overview and a highlight of the board and the way we function, because maybe you don't know. Maybe you're not on the board. Maybe you are not even a member. And so the Cattlemen's is a grassroots organization. And so what that means is that our board and our members are the deciding factor for the Cattlemen's Association. And so every single county association is represented by a state board representative. Makes it very easy. And so you've got 64 county associations. So you've got 64 board reps 4 times a year. They all come here to the office and meet in person to conduct the business of the Cattlemen's Association. And then anything that needs to be brought before the entirety of the membership comes up at convention. And so at board meetings, so normally it's more of the, here's your financial update, here's all these pieces, here's what the ACA has been working on, and let's hear back from y'all what issues are coming up in your county or in your area. Let's talk about those and see what we can do to address them. And so this board meeting is a first quarter board meeting. It was a little different than in the past because we met in December to do our fourth quarter board meeting, and so we were only about a month apart, but we wanted to meet early because we wanted to be able to talk about the year end in review. And so the board looks over the Cattlemen's financials and looks over our budgets and looks over where we stand and where we ended the year in 2024, and then also gets a membership update, talks about things where we stand so far for 2025. And we also looked at some resolutions and some issues and policies that may be coming up at our national convention here next week. So next week's podcast will be coming at you live from San Antonio at the National Cattlemen's Beef Association CattleCon. And so I wanted to make sure that our board had the opportunity to weigh in on the policy that our leaders will be voting on at convention next week. And so this year so far, we were able to look through those and just make sure that we knew where the Arkansas Cattlemen stood on those policies as a board. And then also we got to talk about our area conferences and upcoming events that we have and be able to give them an exciting update on that. And so we can kind of jump into the area conferences then, because that was a very great segue there. It's almost like we planned it that way. What are area conferences? We talked about them a little bit last week, but I don't know that we went super in detail. So what are area conferences and when are they happening?
Yeah, so area conferences, they're events that help us connect to our members in their area, at their county, fellowship with them. We have different vendors there and different sponsors that you can come early. Doors open at 5, dinner is served at 6. So come early, come talk to our vendors. They have a lot of great opportunities for producers, and you can ask them questions. I know maybe some other producers might be setting up a booth. The area conferences take place every Monday and Tuesday, and there's one Thursday at the end of the month. And like I said, doors open at 5. Dinner served at 6. And these events are geared towards providing a legislative update, kind of what we're doing here. And they have an educational component and, like I said, networking with vendors and local producers. So.
Yeah. And she may have left out the most important part is that there's a steak dinner.
Yes. Steak dinner.
She said dinner was served. She didn't specify the beef. Obviously, it's what's for dinner, but a steak dinner.
Yeah. Come get a free
yes.
steak dinner.
Yeah, that's usually a drawing point. I really enjoy these events because it is people from all across the state, but within their area. Obviously, that maybe we don't see that often. Maybe they're not able to make it to convention over the summer during the 3-day part that is convention. But this is a one evening event, couple of hours of your time, pretty close to you, and so it's a great way for us to just connect with our members. So who's our sponsors this year for area conferences?
Yeah, so we have 2 sponsors this year. One is Farm Credit, and then we have the Cattlemen's Education Series grant that is sponsored by the National Corn Growers, that is provided by the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. So really excited about that, because that is making it to where we're doing something new this year. So
Yeah, so we're really excited because it allows us to focus on the educational portion of area conferences. If you've attended area conferences in the past, for the last few years, it's always been sponsored usually by a company, by an organization, and so they're able to provide some educational content, but obviously from their perspective. And so this year we're doing something, I believe, completely new to area conferences as far as I know. So what are we doing?
yeah, so this year what's new is we're going to do a producer panel, kind of what we did at convention, but kind of make it more local. So we're going to try to get cattle producers, whether you're cow-calf, seed stock, stalker. I'm going to try to get them, and I mean, some of them might not all be producers, but somebody local to you, just to give their advice. You ask them questions, they give their story, however they can help you or however you can learn from them. It's just a Q&A, and a lot of people learn from that, I feel like. So
Yeah, it was a really popular event at convention this year. We did our producer profitability panel, and so I heard a lot of great feedback of that. And so now we're able to kind of switch it up a little bit, do very similar, but take it to the local level. And like Nora Lee mentioned, we're going to have all aspects of the industry. We want to be able to highlight not just this one sector, this one item, this one thing that may fit a few people. We're going to try to have multiple facets there because our industry is multifaceted, trying to highlight all of those different aspects of the industry and just provide real life advice, provide things that worked for them or didn't work for them, and let you learn from your fellow producers. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm excited about it. I hope y'all are excited about them. And so if people are interested in attending, 1, do you have to be a member to attend? And 2, how do you register? How do you sign up?
You do not have to be a member to attend. So it's a great way to invite new people that don't know much about the Cattlemen's Association. You can RSVP online. We'll drop the link in the comments description. But it's on our website at arbeef.org under events, and it'll be under area conferences, and you can RSVP under your area. It's literally just your name, your email, and how many people you're bringing. That's all we need to know. So
Yep. Yeah, you're also able to RSVP through your county, and so if you'd like to do that, if you're a member, you attend your local county meeting. Some of them will take the RSVPs at the county level and call in once a week, once a month, or whatever, and put X number of people down from their county. So we try to make it pretty easy for you to RSVP, and that we just ask that you do RSVP. What that allows us to do is to estimate the steak count better. If you come, you want a steak dinner, I want to be able to have a steak dinner to give you. And so we ask the RSVP online or by calling the office. Either way, as long as we can just know you're planning on being there, how many people you're planning on bringing. We'd love to be able to see you in March. We're going to talk about these more for sure coming down the road. But it's one of my favorite events, like I said earlier, because you get to see so many people, and you get to see them in their element. It feels like you get to go to them. A lot of times I feel like people come to us at Little Rock, at Hot Springs, at the convention center, wherever we might be. This is our chance to go to them. And so it's one of my favorite events. We actually end up seeing almost 3,000 producers throughout that month. And so it's a great time to just network with other producers, maybe outside of your county, but still within that same geographical region.
And if you do have a business and you're interested in being a vendor, please call us. We'd love to get your name on the list as well.
Yep. Yeah, those vendor opportunities are available. We have producers that are vendors that are selling cattle. We have people that sell pharmaceuticals, all kinds of opportunities there. Educational vendors as well. All kinds of assets available to you. Just like Nora Lee said, the doors open at 5 to allow time, dinners at 6, to allow time to visit with those vendors, to take advantage of that. They help make it possible for us to be able to provide that free steak dinner. And so we want to make sure that you have the time to engage with them and ask questions and learn from them as well. So we're really looking forward to those. Like Nora Lee said, it'll be in the show notes, in the comments, wherever it might be. Follow that link, RSVP. Come and eat a steak dinner with us. We're really excited about it.
Or if you get your magazine, it's also in the magazine too. So
it is, yeah, and it also has the deadlines in there for those, along with the actual dates. I'm not going to sit here and list out every single date because I just don't think that's very beneficial. But it'll be, again, in the link, but in your magazine as well. It's got the dates, the locations, and the deadlines for all of those. It's usually the week before is your deadline to RSVP, so that way we can ensure our numbers there. So as we wrap up, we've talked a lot about where the ACA is currently, what we've done in the legislative front so far on the podcast and episodes past. We've talked about the board meeting. We've talked about area conferences coming up. I want to take a second and maybe focus on where we've come from. I don't think we've really quite done that yet. We will at some point have an episode dedicated to the history of the Cattlemen's Association. Maybe try to get a cattlemen's historian in. We've got a few that have lots of knowledge about the cattlemen's. But for now, I kind of want to focus, just highlight briefly some of the titans of the Cattlemen's Association. So as we wrap up, I just want to share one of my favorite quotes from what I consider, many people consider, an Arkansas agriculture titan, Mr. Jim Baker. He specified, he said, "It's difficult to stand alone and be effective." And to me, I think that's the whole purpose of the Cattlemen's Association, is to work together. We may have different breeds of cattle. We may be in different sides of the industry. We may be on different sides of the state. But we want the same thing. We want cattle production to succeed in the state of Arkansas. That's why the Cattlemen's was founded 65 years ago, was to protect cattle producers. And so the Cattlemen's, like I mentioned just a second, founded 65 years ago. Last year was actually our 65th year anniversary. And so this week, if you look on our social media, we were really excited to be able to highlight Red River Association, which is Miller County, was able to recognize and honor what I believe is the last living founding member of the Cattlemen's Association. So Mr. Buddy Boyce was able to go to the Red River Association meeting. He received a certificate from them, and they were able to just thank him for his foresight into needing the Cattlemen's. And so, I mean, you think about 65 years ago, it was 1959, and he was one of the 12 men that sat down in Southwest Arkansas that said, we need the Cattlemen's Association. We need somebody fighting for cattle producers in this state, and had the forethought to put this association together. And while a lot has changed, hence we have a podcast, they couldn't imagine that 65 years ago, the missions remain the same. The focus has remained the same, to advocate and protect and fight for cattle producers in the state. And so I'm just grateful, really. And so I'm really just grateful to be able to sit here today because of the work and the people that put in the effort before us. And so I encourage you, we have an article on our website. Go check it out and learn about the history of the Cattlemen's Association. We can put that in the link as well, make it a little bit easier for you to find. But we're just grateful for the people that came before us and that paved the path. And I think this week just kind of reminded me of that. And I wanted to share that quote from Judge Baker with everyone. It's difficult to stand alone and be effective. As I've gone through the Capitol this week, I've been working closely with lobbyists and other ag organizations. And while we may get there different places, we're all headed the same direction. We all want agriculture in the Arkansas to succeed. We're just focused on cattle producers. And so I encourage you, as we wrap up this first month of our membership drive, as we finish this first month of 2025, keep that in mind. If we can be of assistance here at the Cattlemen's, if we can help you stand together on an issue, please let us know. Reach out to us via comments, via social media, call the office, however you need to get in touch with us. That's what we're here for, is to represent cattle producers regardless of breed, regardless of location in this state, regardless of size. It doesn't matter if you have one cow, if you have 1,000 cows. We are here to represent you and to fight for you, and we're stronger together. And so that's what this week at the Capitol's kind of reminded me of. And so I appreciate the opportunity to just share that with y'all. Also, just to highlight and thank and recognize the titans, the people that have come before us and have gotten us to where we are today. So with that, I'll pass it back to Nora Lee to let people know how to find us, what's going on in the Cattlemen's, and how to keep in touch with the things that are going on.
Like I will say every week, follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. You might be watching us on YouTube right now. You can find us on our website, on the homepage. I've linked how to subscribe to this podcast. Find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, basically anywhere you listen to music. And then on our newsletter, we have a newsletter that goes out every Friday at noon where I have the ACA updates, Hats on the Hill, and nationwide industry updates. You can find us there. If you want to be signed up for that, there's a link on our website where you can drop your email and you'll be added to that list. But yeah, just about anywhere on our website, social media.
Yeah. Give us a follow, subscribe, like the podcast, leave us a review, whatever it might be. We're 3 episodes in. We are grateful for you joining us. We're grateful for your membership. We're thankful for the opportunity to fight for cattle producers, but also for y'all to just sit here and listen to us as we talk about what's going on at the Capitol and across the state. So we appreciate you tuning in for episode 3, the Arkansas Cattle Business. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. This is the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast, your trusted source for all things cattle in the natural state.